The secret of a bug. Yes, a strange question. Right now, there might be a tiny insect living and roaming on your body that genuinely shouldn't be there. This insect is called the human body louse. And the detail that surprises me every time I think about it is this. This tiny thing cannot survive on bare skin. It can only live inside fabric, tucked into seam details, hidden between the fibers. A group of researching scientists looked at this situation and said, wait a second, if this tiny bug can only survive in clothing, then how old this bug is might be telling us something huge and surprising. And this information gives us important clues about when humans first started wearing clothes. And you can be sure of this, the number they found is much older than you'd think. Today in this video, we'll cover 4 topics. First, how a tiny bug accidentally uncovered one of the biggest mysteries about us humans. Second, how getting rid of our fur and choosing clothing turned this from a preference into a matter of life and death. Third, the crazy tools our ancestors used to make clothes before humans invented the needle. And fourth, how this small invention may have allowed us to discover half the planet. Yes, let's begin now. A body without fur. As I also mentioned in my previous video, we already know how humans lost most of their body hair a very long time ago, right? It helped us hunt more comfortably and deal with the heat. It made us faster, simpler, and more efficient. But here's something nobody talks about. This change came with a cost. Getting rid of our fur, it was magnificent in Africa. It completely solved our problem with heat. But what about the cold? That suddenly became a huge problem, and our ancestors didn't live out their lives in Africa forever. They started traveling. Slowly, generation by generation, they migrated north to lands where the sun barely warmed anything, where the nights could truly tear you away from life. Imagine this for a moment. No fur. In most cases, no fire yet either. Just a furless body, able to move toward temperatures that could drop below freezing the moment the sun set. A furless, bare body moving toward an ice age? This sounds like it must have been equivalent to standing at the edge of a cliff. So, how did we survive? The louse that solved a mystery. Yes, this is where things really get strange. There are 2 types of lice that live on the human body. First, the head louse, which lives on our head, in our hair. And second, the body louse, which lives in clothing, hidden inside the seams, deep within the fabric. Here's the critical point. The body louse cannot physically survive on bare skin. They need fabric. And this shows us that before clothing existed, these couldn't have existed on our fur in any way either. The detail that caught the attention of a group of scientists was this, and they said, wait a second, let's actually do research on this. They examined the genetic code of body lice and compared it with head lice, and calculated exactly when these 2 species genetically diverged from one another. And think about what this calculation means. 2 insects that are almost identical to each other were separated not by a natural disaster, not by a mountain range, but by the invention of a single object. Clothing offered an entirely new habitat for lice. And the moment this happened, evolution silently split one species into 2. The number they arrived at? Approximately 170,000 years ago. This also indirectly shows us roughly when we started wearing clothes. A tiny, disgusting bug that might be living in your shirt right now helped us solve one of the oldest mysteries related to our species. Not a cave painting or an ancient fossil remnant. A tiny bug did this, long before the needle. Right now, you're probably imagining that early humans sat down and started sewing little clothes. No, not at all. The earliest clothes were not sewn. They were wrapped, tied, and draped over the body. Imagine this, an animal hide removed right after a hunt. Early humans would clean it with sharp stone tools, stretch it out, lay it on the ground, and let it dry in the sun. What's left in your hands is something stiff, rigid, even a bit disgusting. But it works. You wrap it around your body, tie it with leather strips or plant fibers, and that's it. Not comfortable. Definitely not pretty, but warm. And while the planet we live on is this cold, the only thing that matters right now is that it keeps you warm. And here's something strange. As a result of archaeologists' research, they genuinely discovered stone scrapers dating back hundreds of thousands of years, and the wear marks on these clearly match the motion used to clean an animal hide. Most of them still have tiny grease stains and hair fragments stuck to the stone. Fossilized proof that a hunter, somewhere, once cleaned a hide with their own hands. So even if we don't discover the actual clothing, the tools left behind speak this story for us. And for hundreds of thousands of years, this was the system that was used. Wrap a hide, tie it, done. Ordinary and functional. Good enough to keep life going. But good enough was never a place humans like to settle and stay. The needle changes. Everything about 40,000 years ago, something changed. In their excavations, archaeologists came across small, carefully carved needles made of bone and ivory. Some of them had a hole so small that passing a strand of sinew through it seemed like an almost difficult task. This wasn't a simple upgrade. This was a leap. Because a needle means that from now on, you're no longer just draping hides over your body. You're shaping it, fitting it, sewing it to follow the lines of the human body. And a sewn garment allows for far more heat retention than a weak hide ever could. Sleeves wrap around the arms. Hoods cover the head. Seams don't let incoming wind get inside. They block it from seeping through. Think about this. A loose hide worn over your shoulders allows cold air to seep in every time you move. But a garment made windproof through its seams, fitted completely to your body, it holds your own body heat right against your skin, almost like a second costume you grew yourself. And this single invention may have done something incredible. This might be the reason humans were suddenly able to survive in times that were absolutely impossible before. Places like Siberia, the poles, places covered in snow for most of the year, where temperatures could drop low enough to tear an unprotected person away from life in just a few hours. Survival machine, clothing. Yes, the truth is that most of us have probably never even thought about this subject once. Clothing isn't just fabric, it's a technology, an insulated shield that you can modify, sew, design however you want, and pass on from generation to generation in an improved form. A dog is a prisoner of the fur it naturally possesses. A polar bear cannot suddenly develop a better coat of fur in the middle of its life. But us humans, we are prisoners of nothing. If the weather becomes harsher, we don't need to wait thousands of years for our skin to evolve into something thicker. We can simply design a better coat, faster, smarter, in a single generation instead of waiting 50,000 generations. And to be completely honest, this may be one of the greatest advantages humans ever created for themselves. We stopped waiting for evolution to catch up with us. We started inventing our way around it. And when you can improve faster than evolution itself, you realize you're no longer truly limited by the body you were born with. Clothing transformed a fragile, hairless ape into something capable of surviving almost anywhere on our planet. Deserts, mountains, frozen tundras, places that no similar species to ours could have ever imagined reaching. From animal hides to civilization. And once we invented clothing, everything accelerated. It paved the way for better tools and better clothing. Better clothing allowed our species to walk into far colder regions. New continents meant new resources, new problems, and new ideas. And eventually plant fibers were woven into animal hides. Then came wool, then cotton that was cultivated and spun by hand. And then, thousands of years later, massive textile industries that powered industrial revolutions, built economic systems, and reshaped the entire modern world. And all of this traces back to a problem that began the moment our fur started disappearing and was eventually lost completely. We had a problem, and we needed a solution. and we invented it with our own two hands, using stone, bone, and a mountain of patience, long before we even knew the word invention. Yes, the next time you open your wardrobe and put on your favorite coat, take a second to look at yourself in the mirror and think about this. You are literally doing something your ancestors began doing more than 170,000 years ago. Wrapping your body in something warm, something designed, something invented simply because biology stopped being enough at some point. Clothing was never just about keeping our bodies warm. It was proof that humans had found a completely different way to keep moving forward. Not by changing our bodies, but by changing the world around us. And that single critical decision made by a cold, hairless ancestor somewhere during an ancient winter ultimately built the world you're living in right now. A world where survival is no longer determined by what your body can evolve to become, but by what your mind can create. See you in the next video, where we'll explore another fascinating chain of cause and effect.